Okay. Bruchim Abayim. All these people are scared of me. You see that? I brushed my teeth this morning. It's not a problem. I went to mikvah. Although the mikvah, I don't know whether that is something to boast about. Okay. Okay. The last thing we saw was our questions, gentlemen. The last thing we saw were our questions in the beginning of Ois Dalet. After explaining the Indian of Melech B'Sadeh, and that there are two different ways in which the Melech reveals himself. One is in the Heichal, one is in the Sadeh. The king reveals himself in the field, the king reveals himself in his palace. Obviously, the quality of the revelation in the palace is much greater than the quality of the revelation in the field. But the word is not usually quantity that mashpim use. They talk about the idea of hispashtus, the expression, the expanse of the revelation in the field is obviously much greater because the people can actually see the king. He's there. Whereas in the palace, we don't see him. Everything okay down there? In the palace, we don't see him. Right. So there's an advantage, obviously, to the king in the field. The Rebbe asked a number of very, very important questions. There's one absolutely essential question at the beginning of Ois Dalet, and what's that? In the mushal of the Alter Rebbe, and it's very, very interesting because this is part of the mushal that most people have never heard about. When people talk about Melech B'Sadeh, they talk about Melech B'Sadeh, and anybody who wants to go see the king can go see the king. But at the end of the mushal of the Alter Rebbe, what does he say? So he says two things: Mekabelis and B'Sever Panim Yafes, that he receives them graciously, Umarer Lehem Panim Sheichakes, and he shows them a shining face. So Rebbe asks a very, very powerful question: are those not the reaction of the king to our avodah of ani ledodi? Ani ledodi is to go see the king in the field. The reaction of the king to our ani ledodi, according to the Alter Rebbe in his mimer, is when and what? Beginning of the mimer.
Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, Yefeh, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur in the palace, right? Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. That's the response of the king. That's the v'doidi li. We had a problem with that. That's in Tishrei B'Seder. Elul is the preparation for that. We had a problem. There must be some revelation of v'doidi li, or some expression of v'doidi li also in Elul. Right, that's the Yom Yisrachim. That's the king in the field. But that's not a Hisarus. It's only in a Sinus Koyach. If this doesn't make sense, then you haven't been here every day. Right, okay? So that's what we've said up until now in the Maimon. Okay. But if you look at the Alter Rebbe's mashal, so there's something very difficult about the mashal. In the mashal, it has a response of the king to our ani ledodi. And that response is where? In the field. He accepts us graciously and shows us a shining countenance. Why is the response of the king in the field? The response of the king to our ani ledodi is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Yes, there is a reality of v'doidi li. Also in Elul, that's the Yud Gimel Midas Rachman. Right. That's before ani ledodi, so why isn't it doidi li v'ani loy, like the pasuk regarding Pesach? Why isn't it first the king appears to me and then I respond to him? Because it's only an asinas koyach, it's only an empowerment, and it's not a hisaris milamayla, it's not an arousal from above. And I'm just repeating myself because the Rebbe repeats that idea so we understand it very, very well. Okay. So what's the response of the king doing in the mashal? The Alter Rebbe seems to contradict himself by writing the response of the king as part of the mashal. Okay, that's the first question. Then there was you might call it a more technical question. Bottom line, the king responds two different ways, which is really four. There's two verbs and two adjectives. The two verbs are he receives us and he shows us. What does he receive us with? Graciousness. He receives us graciously. And he shows us upon him sheikhakes. So there are two verbs, he receives and he shows, and there are two adjectives, graciously and shining. Gracious and shining. Okay, so how does that work? That's where we were. Let's go. One could say the explanation of this is as follows. Okay, I said yesterday when we were in the middle of Ois Gimel, we got to the questions very quickly at the end, and I wanted you to see those questions before we stopped yesterday. So I said we do Ois Yud, we do the footnote 13 today. Okay, so the footnote 13 is explaining the idea that the Rebbe is medayik in the Mimer of the Alter Rebbe that it says regarding the king in the field, Kol Misha Roitze Lahakbel Pnei HaMelech. Anybody who wants to receive the king. In other words, it's dependent on our Ratzon, and therefore it's a ledodi. It's very much our avodah as opposed to something coming from above. Okay? So in that context, the Rebbe says what the Rebbe says in Ois 13, which is very important. Look at footnote 13 down below. Lahar mitayda Megillas Esther, Sadi Ches Dalet. To explain this more fully from the Alter Rebbe's explanation of Megillas Esther in Torah. Right, Sadi Ches Dalet ve'elech. Sadi Ches, so is the Amud Dalet, Amud literally column. Right, there are 4 columns in every page in Torah, or that's how it's printed. So it's column 1, column Aleph, column base, and then the flip side of the page is column Gimel, column Dalet. Right. But Perush Maimer Chazal, the explanation of the famous Gemara in Shabbos, the Shabbos Gemara is about Matan Torah. As you can see there, Peches, Pezayin, Peches, Petes. There's all these amazing Gemaras about Matan Torah. Kofalem Harkagigis, that he forced upon them or held above them the mountain like a bucket. Right? Famous medrash, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu held the mountain above us and said, if you accept the Torah, mutav, v'im lav, sham tekavud aschem, and if not, that will be your burial, meaning I'll drop the mountain on you. I'll squish you like little ants. Okay, well, that's nice. Okay, so now what does that mean? Obviously, that doesn't mean the Abraham picked up the mountain and held it on our heads. And we know, actually, that we weren't standing we were next to the mountain, not under it, right? So theoretically, obviously, the Abish can do whatever he wants. So he could pick up the mountain and move the mountain. Okay, but what does it really mean? Right, so the Rebbe explains. The Gemara says, Muda Rabba L'Raisa. A muda is that which, a reality that will explain my behavior such that my behavior was under duress. Okay, so someone might have done something, right? So Reuven lent Shimon $10,000. Now, if Reuven can show clearly in the Beis Din, he brings a moda'ah, he brings support for the fact that this was all under duress, so he could get the money back right away. Obviously, you have to make sure that Shimon has $10,000 handy, right? But he can show that this loan or this sale was under duress. A sale is a better example because there's something to give back. So Reuven sold his car, but he didn't want to sell his car. It's just Shimon gave him an offer he can't refuse, right? So that's called a muda'ah. Muda'ah. Right? So, okay, so that's called, usually it's with a modified maidah, right? So that's showing that something was done under duress. So our acceptance of the Torah was under duress. We only accepted the Torah because the Abishta said, I'm going to kill you if you don't. What is this all in Pnimius? In Pnimius, it means that the revelation at Har Sinai was so powerful that we were forced to accept the Torah, meaning it wasn't a function of our ratzon, it was a function of this unbelievable revelation from above, and there was no way to say no. Not because the Abish was going to drop the mountain on our heads, but because in the face of such incredibly powerful revelation, what can I possibly say? And where was that revelation coming from? Above. So where was the acceptance of the Torah not coming from? Below. In the face of such revelation, how can I possibly choose anything other than a Kadosh Baruch Hu? So that's not really a Veda. Right? That doesn't mean that we didn't accept the Torah. We did accept the Torah, but we accept, interesting enough, Chazal call it under duress. What was the duress? It was impossible to say no. Because the Eibishter was revealed to us in such a powerful way. And when is Kabbalah Torah real? When we do it mitzad our own desire to accept the Torah despite the hiddenness that we might experience in Olam Hazeh, in this world. Oh, so when was that? When was the ultimate acceptance of the Torah? Purim. Right? So that's the Gemara. Right? So that's what the Rebbe is quoting here. The cave and she dimunasa lenishma. that since they preceded Nasa L'Nishma, they said that amazing statement, we'll do, even before we understand that whatever it is we'll do, and that was complete and total bittul to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, complete and total nullification to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, true. Why? Well, how can you not be nullified to a Kadosh Baruch Hu when he's revealing himself to you in such a way that that revelation is so powerful that when it happens, 3 million people are pushed back 12 kilometers? Because that's what happened at Matan Torah. At Matan Torah, the Yidden were standing next to Har Sinai after the first Dibur, so they were pushed back the amount of space that they all took up. Now there were 3 million of them, right? 600,000 men, a little few more women, right? Because generally that's the statistic, and a lot of kinder, right? So there were 3 million Jews standing at Har Sinai. So how much space approximately does 3 million Jews take up? 3 million people. Jews are no bigger or smaller than anybody else. Okay, so approximately, the basic estimate is about 12 kilometers. It'll take about 12 kilometers from front to back to fit 3 million people, right? It's not, you don't fit them in a city block, right? They just don't fit there. Okay, so the person standing in the front after the first Dibur was where the person in the back was standing. They were blown back physically, 12 kilometers. Say no to that. Should be more than one. Let's pass this down again. Okay? So that's what the Rebbe is talking about, the muda, Rabbah, the rise of the cave, and she dimanasa l'nishma, mitzada gilui milamayla. This was all a function of the revelation from above, v'loi mitzad atzmam, and not in terms of themselves. Therefore what? Ein zeh b'bechira v'ratzon. This is not a function of my choice and my will. This is imposed upon me. Not that it's bad, I'm glad it's imposed upon me, but it was still an imposition from above. It was a revelation from above. Kofa, you forced. But dafka b'mei Achashverosh, and specifically in the days of Achashverosh, Zman Shel Hester, a time of concealment, kibu b'rotzon gomer. They accepted the Torah with complete desire. Rotzon shemitzad atzman, a rotzon that came from themselves and not from the incredible revelation from above. Adarabah, was a time of tremendous difficulty. On a certain level, this the single most dangerous moment in the history of Am Yisrael. The only time that every single Jewish person was under threat of a death sentence. Because Achashverosh was in control of every single Jew alive and passed a decree that they should all die. Even that which happened fairly recently in the past was, you can't say only, but it was not all the Jews. A significant portion of the Jews were not living in those places under control of that evil person. There were Jews, there were Sfardim, who were nowhere near what he was doing, and there were all the Jews in America, Canada, who were nowhere near what he was doing, and there were also Jews in Russia who were nowhere near what he was doing. However, they had their own despot to deal with, who killed more people than the German. Okay, so those are the questions. The novelty of the revelation of the Yud Gimel Midas Arachim Be'el Legave relative to Hagili B'Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur Hu B'Shnei Yodim. Okay, there are two different ways in which we can differentiate between the revelation of Elul and the revelation of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now, interesting enough, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is Yud Gimel Midas Arachim, right? What do you say? What do you say all through Yom Kippur? What are you saying over and over and over again? Every davening. Yud Gimel Midas Arachim, right? It's all about the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Arachim. Well, isn't that Elul? So how is Yom Kippur different than Elul? And that's the Alter Rebbe's question in his mimer as to why it is that Elul isn't all a Yom Tiv. It should be just a month of Yom Tiv. It's not, it's Chol. Shebechdei lekabel, as the Rebbe explains, there's two different ways in which they differ. Shebechdei lekabel agilu Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur, in order to receive the revelation of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Now the Rebbe says something very, very interesting here. You might think on a certain level it's counterintuitive, because most Jews are affected by the revelation of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, but they're not necessarily affected by the revelation in Elul. As we talked about in the first class we had, most Jews never heard about Elul until they showed up in Yeshiva, and didn't know there was such a month. Right? Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, everybody heard of. You have to be living under a rock if you're a Jew and you haven't heard of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Elul? Never heard of Elul. Right? Elul was called September. Okay, so the Rabbi is going to say something very, very interesting here. We obviously have to understand it. That in order to, and I'll just add one word, in order to fully appreciate and take the fullest advantage of the Gilui of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Hi al Yedei Aveda Nailis is through very lofty service. Muvcharim Sheba'am v'Yechidei Skula. Who do you have to be? Well, who gets to see the king in the palace? The chosen people, the special people, right? Now, the Rebbe already told us that we can all become that by virtue of seeing the king in the field, right? And in the mashal of the Alter Rebbe, what happens? We go to see the king in the field in Elul, and then where does the king go in Rosh Hashanah? Back to the palace, and who goes with him? Whoever went to see him in the field. There's an entourage of everybody going back to see the king. Okay, that's good. But that means we all, the Rebbe said it in this Maimer, the Rebbe said we all become Muvcharim Sheba'am. We're elevated to a level in which we're shayach. It's relevant that we should go into the palace. But to be on that level is very, very difficult. To be someone who truly takes advantage of the revelation of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Ne'ilah, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is not some sort of, I mean, obviously I'm saying this is the most ridiculous thing in the world, but I'll say it in order to, we can appreciate what's going to come next. He's not some West Coast hippie who's into overt expressions of spiritual behavior. He's a holy man. The Rebbe would not let us see his face on the Eilah. The Rebbe would cover his face on the Eilah and we didn't see it. Not because it was cool. It's because he was somewhere that we couldn't see. That's Yom Kippur. That's what it really is. And when would the Rebbe uncover his face? The march. She started the march. The Rebbe would move back his down. Whoa. That's Yom Kippur. So to truly get to that place, that's serious avodah. That's serious avodah. To appreciate some Hisarus Milamayla, we all appreciate some Hisarus Milamayla on Yom Kippur. We've talked about it, right? Every Jew who is in any way, shape, or form affiliated experiences some feeling of heightened Judaism on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. For some people, that means they go to shul. For some people, that means they daven seriously. For some people, that means they don't say any words that aren't connected directly and obviously to their relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, whatever it happens to be. But everybody's a little more connected. Wherever they start, they're in a higher place. Okay. Anybody who has any sensitivity whatsoever to what it means to be Jewish. Most people fast. They might not finish it, but they start it. Not fasting on Yom Kippur. Chazal say that someone who's basically not, meaning almost 2,000 years ago, Chazal described the Jew who has basically nothing to do with the Jewish community as the Jew who doesn't fast on Yom Kippur. Well, that's exactly the same today. Right? That reality is exactly the same. Because it's not sociological, it's spiritual. There's a sociological component to it, obviously, but the source of it is all spiritual. So the Jew has no sensitivity whatsoever, so he's just sort of ois Yiddishkeit, not part of the show. He still is, he's still a Yid, but way out there. What does he do? He'll eat on Yom Kippur. But even that Jew, some of those Jews are very, very Jewish about their eating on Yom Kippur. They'll make a big show and they'll dafki eat something that's treif, the people get together in Tel Aviv and eat pork on Yom Kippur. Very Jewish thing to do. Goyim don't get together to eat pork on Yom Kippur because they don't know what it is and they couldn't care less.
They do something special.
Exactly, they do something special on Yom Kippur. That's very, very, and they do it only because they're Jewish. They're making a very mistaken expression. Okay, I'm not okay. Yes, okay. What is that's God's issue, not ours. But only a Jew would do that. So to truly appreciate Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, it's a Veda Nailis. Ubichdei lekabel agilui de Elul. In order to chaperein in Elul, in order to take advantage of Elul, such lofty Veda is not necessary. What's necessary? Now, the Rebbe uses the word rak, only, which is annoying, because for us it's not only, but it's only, relative to what we just said. There has to be only, as if this is something so simple, Hakbalas Pnei Mashiach. Pnei Malach, I'm sorry. The acceptance of the countenance of the king. Now you have to go see the king in the field. So what does that mean to go see the king in the field? Ubanimshal, the Banimshal in the analog, what is this? Who is utters the Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. What does it mean to go see the king in the field? Accept the Eibishter as your king. You don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to go anywhere. We just have to change our understanding of reality or heighten our understanding of reality depending on where we are. Right? And what's our understanding of reality? What's it supposed to be? The Eibishter is king. What does that mean? That means that your life is about him and not about you, because that's what it means to be a subject of the king. You might have all sorts of plans in your life. Well, put those plans on the shelf. What are your plans? What does the Eibishter want? Now, you'll make plans accordingly. Right? But it doesn't necessarily have to do with the gross national product. It doesn't necessarily have to do with which kind of car you want to drive. It doesn't necessarily have to do with what kind of suit you want to wear. It has to do with what it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me, and why did he send me to Elam Hazeh in the first place? Why am I here, B'chlal? Because he's the one that put me here, and he's the one that keeps me here. Okay, so it's about him, not about me. That's called Kabbalah Sol. That's what it means to go see the king. Because the subject of the king defines himself in terms of the king. I don't know what's written there now. I guess I should look, because I just got a brand new one when I was in Vancouver, and it's very, very fancy. But there is a difference. There used to be. I assume there still is. A difference between a Canadian passport, certainly a British passport, and an American passport. In an American passport, what does it say? It says the government of the United States, or the Secretary of State, I guess it is, in the name of the government of the United States, asks that you allow our citizen passage into your country. You probably never read that thing, but in the front of the passport, there's a little contract that this passport says that the American government vouches for you to be something less than a murderer and and whatever else you might be, right? So that's why, I don't know what I'm saying, right? So that's why you only need a passport to leave America, not to come in. So it says that you're okay, and the American government is vouching for you that you're okay, right? That's what it says. Okay, fine. What does a Canadian one say? Or a British one? I'll say what it used to say, because it makes me nervous to say what it says now. What did it used to say? The Governor General of Canada, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, asks that you allow her subject entry into your country. What does it mean if you have a queen or a king? You are the subject of the king. You are not a citizen. You're a subject. Completely different. Completely different. Which is wild. Okay. I think it still says that. I don't know. I should look. I just got a brand new one, and so I should look at it. We were all looking at all the other parts of it, this part, the biometric, and the very fancy. So we should look at what's written in the front. There's definitely the coat of arms, that's for sure. The coat of arms of the royal family, that's in the front. The Australian passport will have the same. Completely different. Interesting. Swedish passport says anything about the king? Probably not, right?
I have no idea, actually.
Look at it. Look at it. Check it out, right? I mean, there is a king, even though he's sort of, he's less than the English king even. Yeah. But okay, there's a king. Well, it would be interesting to know whether a Swedish passport says anything about being a subject of the king or a citizen of Sweden.
I'll give the verdict tomorrow.
Right, yeah, no, interesting to know what they did. At some point, for sure, it said subject to the king. Right. Absolutely, but it still doesn't. That's what it means to have a king. Who are you? You're a subject. Right? Okay. To put it in slightly different terms, and I'm not flying the flag. I'm just telling you, reality for many, many people. Right? A chassid of a rebbe, how does he define himself, and how does he introduce himself? A guy shows up in Vancouver, Canada, 35 years ago, and starts meeting Jews. How does he introduce himself? Hi, I'm the emissary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Vancouver. That's how he introduces himself. He has a name. He'll tell him his name. My name is Yitzhak Weinberger. My name is whatever it happens to be. Well, what's the first thing he says? I'm an emissary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe here in Vancouver. This is what a chassid is. That's what Chassidus is about. But that's not, Chassidus didn't make that up. That's what a yid is. Right? The Banim shall Yisrael the Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. Who am I? I'm the Eibishter's kind, the Eibishter's child. That's who we are. Who put us here? The Eibishter put us here. What does he want from us? Oh, good question. So we know lots and lots and lots of stuff that he wants from us. But for me personally, what does he want from me personally? Ooh, wow. That's a fascinating thing to try to figure out in life. Right? And some people spend their lives really trying to figure that out. And other people, I'll keep Shabbos, I'll eat kosher, but I mean, let's not get too serious about this. I have some plans here.
I thought that we said Hisorus was from above. This context, it's from below now.
Hisorus is the arousal from below. Hisorus is wherever it comes from. So you and I can arouse ourselves, or the Eibishter can reveal himself in such a way that arouses us. Kabbalah soul comes from below.
Excuse me, the theme in this mimer was Hisorus, not Hisorus, and it was...
That's from the Eibishter. What about us? Here, the Rebbe said, ledodi, right at the beginning of the mimer. Second line, it's arousal from below, second line. So when we were talking about no arousal, that's talking from above. Below, it's all about, that's what ledodi is all about. He's
from above, it's Nasinas Koach.
No, from above is Hisarus. Nasinas Koach is not a Hisarus from above, is not an arousal from above. It's only an empowerment to do the avodah of arousal from below. Hisarusa delatata, that you and I awaken in ourselves and express a desire to come close to God. As opposed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing things that make that hard not to do, like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. A Jew is sensitive to Elokus and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I mean, that's nice, that's good, that's impressive. But I think it's reasonable, I think we would probably all agree, and certainly hopefully we agree regarding ourselves, that if I don't feel a certain amount of sensitivity to Elokus and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I wonder what's wrong with me. Right? Because I should. Right? Whereas on a regular day, being sensitive to Elokus is a function of real avodah. A person has to develop a certain sensitivity, a certain consciousness. What are they aware of? Are they aware of themselves? Are they aware of the Eibishter? What noise is banging around in their head? Their own noise or the Eibishter's noise? That's up to me, isn't it? It's up to me. What do I put in my head? Whatever I put in there, that's what's going to bang around. So I have to decide what I'm going to put in there. Famous story of a chassid who came to them. There's two stories, but we'll only tell one of them. They go together. We'll tell the short one. A chassid came to the Maggid and said he has machshavas zaros, strange foreign thoughts when he davens. What was the Maggid's very short answer? They're not strange, they're yours. They feel right at home. They're not foreign. That's what you think about all day. So why would you think you're not going to think about that when you daven? Right? They're not foreign. They live there. Right? They have a passport in there. Why? Because I put them in there. I decided that's where they should go. Right? Now, that's hard not to do, especially with one of these things, right? Where here, it's over here, right? Because with these things, they just put so much garbage in your head. And I don't mean garbage, just stuff that has nothing to do with anything that really matters, right? It's just endless supplies of it. Okay. Kabbalah Soul. Kabbalah Soul, Reishis Avedi Vikara V'Shasha. The beginning of Avedi is Kabbalah Soul. On a certain level, you can call Kabbalah Soul. I mean, there's different aspects of Kabbalah Soul. Here, the Rebbe is talking about accepting the Eibishter as king. The Eibishter is king. It's his show. We're part of him. He's not part of us. I mean, he is part of us, but we exist because of him. He does not exist because of us. And to the extent that he does exist because of us, I mean, there is such a reality, that's only because he decided he wanted to put himself in that position in order to have a relationship with us. But that all comes from him. Everything that exists, the highest level of godly reality to the lowest, most base physical object, everything that exists outside of the etzem, the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is just his essential existence, which just is, everything else is an expression of God's will. It only exists because God wants it to be. Every level of godly light, the highest levels, the lowest levels, Soved, Mamale, 4 worlds, 10 spheres, they only exist because God wants them to. If God wanted there to be 14 spheres, there'd be 14 spheres. You'd probably have 14 fingers and 14 toes, and we'd count in base 14. Probably. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, some other number, some other number, some other number, some other number, and then we'd write a number 1 and 0. 1 group of 14s and 0 units. We don't do it that way. Why not? Because we look like this. Why do we look like this? Well, it's 10 spheres, so we look like this. If you wanted it to be 12, there'd be 12. For why you wanted 13 attributes of mercy. Why 13? I don't know. 13. 13 is gematria echad. Pshh, you're supposed to leak some air. Okay, true. It's true. 13 is gematria echad. Okay. There's another unique aspect of the Gilui of Elul. Shagilui hu gam la'ela nimsoim b'midbar del umazeh. This is the first time the Rebbe's brought this up. He's talked about the fact that the revelation of Elul is for everybody, but we only talked about 2 groups of people, which really only talked about 1 group of people. We talked about the people in the Sadr. And yesterday, in order to understand what the Rebbe meant when he says the people from the Sadr, we also talked about the people in the ear, right? Because the people in the Sadr were on a low level. But the people in the Sadr are not on such a low level because at least they're in the Sadr. There's people who are in a worse place. It's called the Midbar, the desert, the spiritual desert. And the revelation of the Yud Gimel Sarachim is even for them. And every single one of us is there sometimes. Because if we do something against the will of God, we just put ourselves in the spiritual desert. I can extract myself from there, but I also might put myself there. Gam la'ela nimsayim b'midbar delumazah. We can move on, it's understood. Gam mizer, also from this fact, she'ikr hagilui, the Yud Gimel Sarachim, the essential revelation of the whole notion of the 13 attributes of mercy, of the Yud Gimel Sarachim, shebe'elul, in Elul, but in general, hu nesinas kayach, is an empowerment. Empowerment for what? What are we being empowered to do? Now, the next 2 words in the Mimer say it, but even without those words, I think you probably understand it. What are we being empowered to do by virtue of the revelation of the Yud Gimel Sarachim? It's called tshuva. Change. Come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? That's what we're being empowered to do. We're not being empowered to learn how to high jump better. I don't need the Yud Gimel Sarachim to learn how to high jump better. I need the Yud Gimel Sarachim in order to help me get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's called tshuva. And that's what the Yud Gimel Sarachim were all about. And when Moshe Rabbeinu asked the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they just did this thing called Chet Egel, and there must be a way back from such a place. And he said, of course there's a way back. There's always a way back. Okay, what is it? What are you able to show Moshe Rabbeinu? Yud Gimel Sarachim. That's what was revealed, the Nikras Tzur, in the crack of the mountain. The Rebbe continues, the tshuva kipshuta, tshuva simply, there's obviously a more sophisticated expression of tshuva, but simple pshat in tshuva, what does it mean? Hi al inyonim bilti b'tzuyim is a response to undesirable things, meaning undesirable behavior. Simply, when we talk about tshuva, what do we mean? The necessity to right a wrong. I've distanced myself from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I have to come back. That's tshuva. Now, there's a deeper expression of tshuva, which is existential. My neshama is far away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu because it's been taken from its source above and put down in a body here in Olam Hazeh, and by definition, that neshama has to do tshuva, has to try to get back. So that every single living creature in Olam Hazeh is about tshuva, so to speak, as opposed to a tzaddik. What's a tzaddik? That's the neshama above. Okay, there's that. But there's also the basic understanding of tshuva being a response to improper behavior. Okay. Bechinas midbar. So who's tshuva about? People who are in the midbar. So what's the Yud Gim Yisrachim about? People in the midbar. The ikar tshuva, the essence of tshuva, well, prikasel, is on throwing off the yoke of heaven. Every aveira is called prikasol. What does it mean? I throw off the. I somehow lose sight of the fact that moment that I'm a subject of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and I see myself as an independent being who can make decisions regarding my behavior, and my decisions are based on what I want, not what he wants. And that's called an aveira. Yeah, did that turn off? Because it's okay. That's bizarre. Is it broken again?
No, it's on.
Oh, okay, yes, I can feel it now. Thank you. I thought either I was getting very excited about the mimer or else it was getting very hot in here. Hopefully both. But so it's prikasol. What's prikasol? The opposite of kabbalasol. How do I undo prikasol? Kabbalasol. Prikasol is throwing off the yoke. What do I do? I accept the yoke. Yoke. I know it sounds heavy. Say the prikasol means I make a commitment to the Eibishter regarding what my life is about. Every relationship is based, the basis of every relationship, and that's why we say it every day, right? There's a minhag in Lubavitch every day to say a few lines of, 10, 12, 15 lines, however many it is, the beginning of chapter 41 in Tanya. Reishis Aveda Vikar B'Shashim. Right? The beginning of Aveda is what? Yiras Hashem. What's that? Kabbalah Soul. What's it all based on? Kabbalah Soul. What's every relationship based on? Kabbalah Soul. What's Kabbalah Soul in that context? Commitment. What's a marriage based on? Commitment, not love. Commitment.
Not you?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Right? Certainly, hopefully not that she's afraid of him. Right? That's already dangerous. Right? If he's afraid of her, okay, I'd say that's a different thing. No, because women might have a temper, but they're not dangerous. Men are dangerous. Man with a temper is dangerous. First question that, we're checking out men for our daughters. So I would make a lot of the phone calls, right? Because you're talking to men. My wife made the phone calls looking for young ladies for our sons because they're talking to women, their friends, their teachers. Okay, so I would make the phone calls. First question: does he have a temper? If there's any hesitation at the end of the line, thank you very much. Because a man with a temper is dangerous. A woman with a temper is hard to live with, but she's not dangerous. A man with a temper is a dangerous thing. It's embarrassing to be a man when you say that, but I mean, that's the way it is, right? Okay. So the beginning of any relationship is commitment. Is the two people commit to each other, and what grows out of that commitment? Hopefully, what grows out of that commitment is love. The world says the other way around. The world says they have these bizarre things that you fall in love. I mean, when is falling a good idea? But anyway, okay, we say that. You fall in love, and then if you've fallen in love powerfully enough, so then you commit. Okay, that sounds reasonable in all fairness. But the success rate for that type of relationship is about 10% success rate. 50% of those relationships which actually make it to marriage fail. But almost all of the people who live in the society who do relationships that way have had 3 or 4 relationships before they got married that they were very seriously involved in and were emotionally distressed when the relationship broke up. And these are real people with real feelings, right? And they really felt badly when this relationship didn't work. How many of those were there? 2, 3, 4. So you're talking about a 90% failure rate. What's really funny is they have the chutzpah to talk about how we do shidduchim, and they tell us that we do it in a funny way. Well, who are you to talk? Some guy who hits 100 in single A ball is going to tell someone who hits 300 in the major leagues what hitting's all about? Give me a break. That was for Dr. November, but he's not here. Right? Okay. Because if you think that the basis of a relationship is love, that's not true. What grows out of the commitment, hopefully, is love. And it's a beautiful thing. But it starts with commitment. And that's how it works. So too with the Eibishter. How do we start? The Rebbe explains very, very clearly, and we say this every day, is not love, even though there's yira and ava. The ikar is yira. The basis of it all is yira, and yira is not fear. Yira is Kabbalah soul. Pachad is fear. Yira is Kabbalah soul. Yira is from re'iyah, to see elokus in your life. To be sensitive to the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your life. Committing to his program. This is his agenda. That's hard to do, because I have my own agenda. He programmed us in such a way that we would naturally have our own agenda. Beseder, we have to overcome that natural inclination of our nefesh bahamis to have our own agenda and realize that our life is really all about his agenda, not mine. Okay, same. That's what bittul means. Bittul means I'm bottled to someone else's agenda, not my own. Someone who's a yesh, the opposite of bittul, someone who's very yesh. So what does that mean? That means when he walks into a room, he has an agenda. The agenda is that you should think that he's cool, or smart, or athletic, or holy, or religious, or whatever it happens to be, right? Depending on what society he's in. That's called yeshus. Right? Bittul is when someone walks into a room, his agenda is, what would a Kadosh Baruch Hu like me to accomplish in this room? Why did I show up here? What does he want from me? Now, it might be that the answer is to be relatively passive and just not make a scene. Okay, fine. Okay. Don't make a Chilul Hashem. That's the first thing. You know, you're on a plane, don't make a Chilul Hashem and make everybody think that religious Jews are cracked. Okay, that's the first thing. Now what?
We're not supposed to lie.
What?
Oh, we're not supposed to lie.
Lie?
Lie.
Like tell untruths? What, so we're all walking Chilul Hashem and so we shouldn't lie? No, I don't think we are. I don't think that's true. Right? We have an agenda. Doing what the Eibishter wants isn't law. Doing what the Eibishter wants is truth. Doing anything else is untruth. So that's Kabbalah soul. So what? What's the response to being found in the midbar? And I'm found in the midbar because I threw off the yoke of heaven. So I put myself in the midbar. What's my response? Get back to the king. Elul, the king is in the field. I don't have to make it all the way to the palace. The king is in the field. And not only is he in the field, he's paved the road from the desert to the field. There's an Asinas Kayach. I still have to get in the car and drive, conceptually. But he's there. The mizem movement, from this is understood, Shagilui de Elul hu gam la'el Hashem b'tachlis arichot. From this we understand that the revelation of Elul is also those who are the farthest away. The whole idea of the Yud Gam Yisrachim is to help Jews do tshuva. So who needs tshuva more than anybody else? Someone far away. And that which it says in the Mimer, so now the Rebbe deals with something very interesting. Shagilu delahu besada v'loy b'midbar. Wait a minute. So if you're going to tell me that it's all about getting the people from the midbar to reconnect to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so then why isn't the Gilu of the Yud Gam Yisrachim in the midbar? Why in the Sada? The king should go to the midbar. That's where everybody is. Well, there's an obvious answer. The revelation of the Yud Gimel Sarachim, who loiba midbar atzma, is not in the midbar itself, because what does the midbar represent? A reality that is divorced and separate, so to speak, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yud Gimel Sarachim is the Eibishter. So the revelation of the Yud Gimel Sarachim means by definition I'm not in a midbar. By definition. But wait a minute, what about the Yid in the midbar? So the Yud Gimel Sarachim, the Elokus, is not revealed in the pub. The Elokus is revealed in the Yid in the pub, but not in the pub. Don't turn the pub into something holy. The pub's klipa. What about the Yid in the pub? He's holy. Therefore, the Yud Gimel Sarachim can affect that Jew. And what might he do? He might walk out of the pub. The Yud Gimel Sarachim loiba midbar atzmei. The binyanim shehem hefech ratzon avaya. Things which are the opposite of the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu ain't shayach. It's not relevant. Sheyeh behem gilu elokus. There'll be a revelation of godliness. Midbar doesn't mean a place where there's sand. Midbar is a spiritual reality, right? A place lacking obvious godliness. A place of spiritual darkness. Okay, so what's not there? The Eibishter, so to speak. No Gilui of the Eibishter there. But what about the Yid in the Midbar? There's a Gilui of the Eibishter in him. Elo, that's what the Rabbi says right now. Elo b'Yisrael animsayim b'Midbar. Where's the revelation? In the Jew that's found in the Midbar, but not in the Midbar itself. So that's why the mashal is the Sada, not the Midbar. I want the Jew to go out of the Midbar and go to the Sada to go see the king, Beseder, but the revelation is not in the Midbar. The Midbar is a place, so to speak, devoid of godliness. That's the whole idea of the Midbar. That's why it's called a Midbar. It's not a place of revelation, it's a place of concealment. I want to leave that place of concealment. Elul is a time when even the Yid who's found in the Midbar might have a greater chance to leave the Midbar because the Eibishter is giving the koyach to do that in a level that's beyond a normal day. But the Jew has to do it. He doesn't want to do it, so he doesn't do it. Vagilui behem, and this revelation in them, hu nasinas koyach, is the empowerment latseis mi midbar l'sada, to leave the Midbar and go to the Sada. And what's in the Sada? L'kabel pnei melech, to go see the king in the Sada. So again, as we talked about earlier, in the Nimshal, what's all this about? When you make achlota for positive behavior in Elul, or a lack of negative behavior, it'll be easier to keep that achlota. You have to make the positive resolution. And you have to work hard to keep the positive resolution. But in Elul, you have, so to speak, the wind at your back to keep it. It'll be easier. You'll find less. It's not that you won't find any. You'll find less obstacles in your way to keeping that positive resolution, whatever it may be. So make a positive resolution in Elul regarding your behavior. Bring about a change in your behavior. So by the time you get to Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, it's become who you are. He's been doing it for a while. That's it. I mean, that's what the Rebbe just discussed, right? I want to get out of a part of my life that's the midbar. Okay. You've got the wind at your back. Let's go. That's what Rebbe just said. That's what he means. It's like real. Well, doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Most cigarette smokers I know, it's mutter to mutter. I mean, it is mutter. It's mutter to smoke cigarettes on Rosh Hashanah, not Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah is Yom Tov, so it's mutter to smoke cigarettes on Yom Tov. You're allowed to transfer the fire from the match, well, not the match, from the candle to the end of the cigarette. You're allowed to do that. But in Lubavitch, there's a minhag not to smoke on Rosh Hashanah. Okay. That's 2 days. This year it's 3 days. Most cigarette smokers I know don't find it difficult to not smoke on Rosh Hashanah. They just don't even think about it. Why? Well, there's this incredible revelation from above, and they're just not connected to that reality on those days. They don't find that difficult. Most cigarette smokers say they don't find Shabbos difficult, which is really now. You see them at Havdalah going like this, and the first thing they light their cigarette from the Havdalah candle before you put it out. Mm-hmm. Okay, say. But Shabbos, you don't notice that they're nervous or anything. Okay, whereas on a normal Tuesday they would be. Okay, why? Is there Yisarus Milamayla, which connects you to something else, and you're not thinking about that on Shabbos. Shabbos, you wake up in the morning with this desire to look at your cell phone. Certainly hope not. Right? During the week, you might wake up in the morning. It might be it's the alarm, and unless you've made a hachlata not to look at it until you've said brachas and gone to mikveh and done a few things that are connected to God before you look at the news on the piece of plastic. So then you might have a pretty serious temptation to look at the news on the piece of plastic. But you decide, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, but you might have a temptation to do it. You might have a temptation to do it. Shabbos morning, you have a temptation to do it. I mean, you haven't thought about it. I mean, why would you even think about such a thing? Oh, gee, I wish I could look up the news, but it's Shabbos. It's not there. Now, it's also true that it wakes you up on a normal Wednesday, right? Usually the thing that wakes you up, so you have to hit the screen. Don't press dismiss. Press snooze, or else you're going to sleep for the next hour. So the Eibishter tells us that the Eibishter tells us that I'm here in Elul, I'm in the field, I'm giving you a golden opportunity to leave the midbar, and that's the revelation of the Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim in Elul. So it affects the Jew in the midbar, but it doesn't affect the midbar. The revelation isn't in the midbar. The revelation is in the Jew in the midbar, but not in the midbar itself. The pub is not elevated to a higher level of reality. It's still a pub. It's still klipa. The Jew is more connected to who he is. It's easier for him to connect to who he truly is. Let's put it that way. That's the Nesinas Kerech of Elul. Val Pizeh Yesh Leimer. Based on this, we can explain. Damash Yekosu Ba Maimer. But that which it says in the Maimer, now the Rebbe says something absolutely astounding. We'll see the first half of it now, and we'll see the second half tomorrow. We have a problem. We are now answering our question. Our question was, why is the response of the king in the field? That he accepts us and shows us. He accepts us graciously and shows us a shining face. The response of the king to ani ledodi is in Tishrei, not in the field. The Rebbe says an amazing thing. Look at this. This is Pashut amazing. Al Pizeh Yesh Leimer. The Masha Kosu Ba Maimer. That which it explains in the Maimer. The Alter Rebbe. Shamelech Mekabel es Kulam B'Sefer Panim Yafes. The Rebbe's going to deal with the first one first and the second one second. That which it says the king receives them graciously. Hakavonda B'Zeh Shemadgish es Kulam. The emphasis on all of them. It says Umekabel es Kulam B'Sefer Panim Yafes. Who's this Kulam? Who's all of them? Look what the Rebbe says here. Shagam also those Shem Reitzim LaHakbil es B'nei Melech, they want to go greet the king in the field, meaning they want to bring about changes in their life. Ele Shem Shvuyim B'dei Yitzum, but they're held captive by the Yetzer Hara. And Gam, and also Kishim Yis'arer Etzlam, when it's aroused in them Rotzon, a desire Lassos Tshuva, to do Tshuva, L'Kabel Aleim El Malchus Shamayim, and to accept upon themselves the yoke of heaven. I'll put that in slightly different form. And don't take this personally, I'm just saying it's, they want to get up for Chassidus every single morning. They really do. And they want to be a Nigla Seder every single day. They really do. And they want to learn a night Seder every single night. They really do. But, but it doesn't actually happen. But they want to. They just don't get up. But they want to get up. They feel badly when they don't get up. Doesn't happen. Even those people, also those people, who Makabo B'Sefer Panim Yafes, he accepts graciously. Wow. Okay. So maybe just answer the question. How did he answer the question? When is it that the Eibishter accepts us graciously? After we've come see him? What the Rebbe just said.
We're going to make an effort.
Didn't say that. Even before, when we just have a will to do it, and we didn't actually act upon it yet. Wow. Even the person who wants to do tshuva, but for whatever reason he didn't quite, as they say in the vernacular, get it together, right? He didn't quite express that desire in action. The very desire to leave the midbar and go see the king in the field, the king accepts that desire graciously before there's no ani ledodi yet. There's a desire for ani ledodi, but it hasn't happened yet. This response of the king isn't a response to ani ledodi, it's before ani ledodi. And why? So look what the Rebbe says. V'zeh ma'orer etzlam. Wow. And this arouses in them rotzen chazak v'takif, a strong and powerful desire, lahakbil es pnei hamelech, to go see the king. The Jew has a desire to go see the king, but if for whatever reason it doesn't happen, the Eibishter in Elul accepts that desire graciously. That arouses in the Jew, we'll talk about when we see tomorrow the end of this whole equation, we'll have to talk about it. That arouses in the Jew a greater, stronger desire to go see the Eibishter. And based on this stronger desire, that's a result of the king accepting his original desire, they overcome the obstacles and they go see the king. Wow. So the king's response isn't to ani ledodi. Now, how this all works, we're not going to talk about it now. It's late. We're going to see the second half. What's mad upon him sheikha case? What's that? And then we'll have to figure this all out. Because the Rebbe did just say something that seems somewhat problematic for our understanding of this whole avodah vela. What did the Rebbe just say?
Doesn't even have to be ani ledodi.
Well, there has to be a ratzon for it, okay, but then as a result, so the Eibishter accepts that ratzon, and then what does he do? The Rebbe used some interesting words. What does the Eibishter do? He's makabel esem b'sefer panim yafos. He accepts all of them, even the people who haven't come to him in the field yet. They're still stuck in the midbar. He accepts their desire graciously. What does that do? Rebbe just said.
Empowers the actual desire to manifest itself.
Okay, but you're using a word that's a good word, but it's not the word the Rebbe uses. The Rebbe uses another word that's even more problematic for us. Look at what you're saying is true, but really the Rebbe says even more than that. What word does the Rebbe use? He says ma'orer. This arouses in us a greater desire. Whoa. What does that sound like? Doesn't that sound like Isarus Milamayla? Doesn't that sound like Isarus Dilatei? I haven't done my ani ledodi yet. And yet there's this why am I doing ani ledodi? Because the Eibishter aroused in me a more powerful desire than I was able to arouse in myself, and I overcome the obstacles that usually get in my way, and I go see the Eibishter. Oh, that's interesting. You have to figure that one out. You have to figure it out right now. We just have to know that that's there. Because that is what the Rebbe said. Look at the words. V'zeh, second last line. V'zeh, the Eibishter is the king is gam oisam, even those who haven't yet expressed the ani ledodi. They want to, but it hasn't happened yet. Gam oisam u'makabel b'sefer panim yafos. He accepts them graciously. Meaning, in spiritual terms, what does this mean on some level? The guy in Gashmias. The guy wants to quit smoking, but he just went to the store and bought a pack of cigarettes. But he wants to quit smoking. The Eibishter accepts that desire graciously and gives him the koyach to throw the pack out. Right? That's basically what the Rebbe just said, right? Oh, doesn't that sound like it's all coming from above? Well, I understand. The first, I really wanted to quit. Ugh, I can't stand this cigarettes. I wish I could quit. I just really want to quit. How much is a pack? That itself should make people quit when they find out how much it is. But okay, whatever. I don't know how people afford it, but whatever. It's a separate issue. Okay. Wild, though. It gets even crazier. But the Rebbe says, Zeh ma'erer etzlam, ratzon chazak yesod. Ratzon chazak b'tokef. Okay, so now in order to answer our question, we understand how we've answered our question. How it all works, we don't understand, but we answered the question. Why is it that the Alter Rebbe includes the response of the king to Ar Ani ledodi in his mashal? Because it's not a response to Ani ledodi. It's still before Ani ledodi. It's the king accepting our desire to do tshuva, even though we haven't acted upon that desire yet, and giving us an even greater desire, such that we'll overcome those obstacles that we usually find difficult to overcome. But that does sound like it's coming from the king, right? And the Rebbe used the word Zeh ma'erer. Right? So he didn't say empowerment, he said ma'erer.
But the intention is the trigger.
100%. I have to do something, 100%. But
What is that?
it ended up going from, doing serious avodah to, well, I have to at least want. Most of the time we say, okay, you want. That's very nice, right? I'm glad. No, but Rabbi, I really want to get up for Chassidus. Okay, I'm glad you want to get up for Chassidus.
Nowadays, that's actually...
Okay, let's say that's good. But, you have to put it in slightly different terms, right? Don't forget about Chassidus in the morning. But I'm saying, put it in other life terms. Not real, just other life terms. You keep saying to your boss, I really want to come on time. But I just, how long is it going to take the boss before he says, okay, look, maybe you should find another job? It's not going to take that long, right? You can't say that to a boss. Because that, in that sense, that's real life. In that sense, yeshiva isn't real life. Because in yeshiva, the student's in charge. Which is why education can't be what it should be. Because the student's in charge. Because you want the student to learn. And you'll bend over backwards to make sure the student will learn. In the old days, the students were clamoring to get into the yeshiva. And if they didn't pull their weight, they were gone. So they pulled their weight.
That's maybe what Hashem's doing. He's bending over backwards.
Okay, yeah,
Bending over
no,
backwards.
100%. Nothing. The
We're
age
in
is
charge.
right.
We're in charge.
Right?
Bending over backwards, just to take our attention as enough to get things going, get the ball rolling.
But in a job, so the boss just wants someone to do the job, right? And he's not, unless you're his son. If you're his son, you'll always get your job back, right? Which is what Tshuva is really all about, right? But if you're not his son, so if you blow it, you just lose the job. That's just the way it is. Now, Baruch Hashem, we're the Abish's children, so we never lose the job. I mean, the Abish just keeps bending over backwards to make sure that somehow, even though, well, I didn't get it together, okay, decided to try tomorrow. Okay, not that that's wrong, but that doesn't work in all situations, which is important for people to find out at some point. Meaning adults figure that out at some point. That if I don't go to work, I get fired. So I should go to work. It's an important part of life. It's called Kabbalah Soul. Now it's imposed from above because I don't want to lose my job. Hopefully I should develop. I mean, why do I get out of, in that person who's getting out of bed because he has to go to work. So that person is getting out of bed so he doesn't want to get out of bed. Okay, that's not true. He does want to get out of bed because he wants to get out of bed more than he wants to lose his job. So he'll get out of bed because everything we do is based on Ratzon, just like the age. We only do what we want. The question is, what do we want? So can I get myself to the point that as much as I want to stay in bed, I want to get out of bed more than I want to miss Chassidus. I really don't want to miss Chassidus. There's a day without Chassidus just doesn't work. So then I'll get up in the morning and Chassidus before I go. And not just in Yeshiva, in life. I remember walking to shul. I think I mentioned this before. It was just such a funny thing. I was in Crown Heights for Tisha B'Av, I was walking to shul at 9:45 with my son. You know, we woke up, said Kriya Shema, sort of, you know, hung around the house, and then walked to shul at 9:45. So as we were walking to shul, he said, "This is really bizarre. This is how everybody in the Jewish world davens. They get up in the morning, no mikveh, no chassidus, no mezonos before davening. That's Tisha B'Av by us, right? You can't learn chassidus, you can't go to mikveh, and you can't eat anything before you daven. So you just like walk to shul at 10 to 10. And, you know, the first thing you do is throw on a talis and wrap yourself up and start to daven. Nothing, you can't prepare for it.
Gets the morning off like it's
But
morning
it's-
is an M-O.
But it's
M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's Tisha B'Av.
For Tisha B'Av,
No
that's
chassidus, no
fitting.
mikveh, no mezonos. I mean, like,
That's our withdrawal. Unfortunately, we have to go through that suffering. of not
I
having
guess, I don't know.
Tisha
You,
B'Av.
you like to have answers for everything. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's called
That's your
gullus.
suffering. your
It's
Tisha
called
B'Av.
gullus. I don't know. But that's what's so amazing. For some people, that's not called gullus. For some people, that's called every day. I mean, it's the Chassidish Tisha B'Av. Get up in the morning, no mikveh, no chassidus, no mezonos. Haidu! My mizmor shir, I don't know what it is.
Citizen, Tisha B'Av.
Oh, wait, we have to turn this thing off. Baruch Hashem, I forgot it, because sometimes it's very annoying. I learn how to turn off the